In the sunlit kitchen, Deborah Franklin was hurriedly preparing breakfast. The coffee maker hummed pleasantly while the toaster released the aroma of freshly baked bread. The clock showed 6:45 a.m. To make it to her hospital shift at 8 o'clock, she had just 15 minutes to wake Noah, finish breakfast, and get him off to school. "Noah, time to get up." Deborah called up the stairs. No response. She sighed and headed up. After quietly knocking on her 8-year-old son Noah's door, she heard a small murmur. Deborah smiled as she opened the door. Noah was still in bed, wrapped in his dinosaur print comforter. "Good morning, sleepyhead. You'll be late for school," Deborah said gently, placing a light kiss on Noah's forehead. Noah rubbed his sleepy eyes and slowly sat up. "Morning, Mom. Hospital again today?" "Yes, but I'll be home early today, so we can make dinner together. Remember our promised spaghetti night?" Deborah said, gently stroking his hair. A small smile appeared on Noah's face. He was a quiet child. Since the divorce 3 years ago, he had been trying to adjust to their new life in Pinewood, this small Minnesota town. Especially the school transfer a year ago had been a significant change for him. Saying goodbye to friends from his previous school had likely been harder than anticipated for the introverted Noah. Deborah was walking a tightrope schedule every day, balancing her nursing job with raising her only son. Her ex-husband Jason had started a new family on the West Coast and, though he sent child support, he only saw Noah a few times a year. Still, she never complained and treasured the time with her son above all else. After breakfast, while driving Noah to Oak Crest Elementary School, Deborah observed her son in the rearview mirror. Lately, Noah had become quieter than usual. Was he making friends at his new school? "Noah, are you enjoying school? Any problems?" Deborah asked casually. Noah continued staring out the window and answered after a slight pause. "It's fine. Mr. Harris gives me special lessons." Deborah felt somewhat relieved. Mr. Harris was Noah's homeroom teacher. He had a gentle personality, was well respected by the children, and was known for being particularly patient with quiet students like Noah. At the last parent-teacher conference, Mr. Harris had explained Noah's learning situation in detail, saying, "He's taking a little time to adjust, but he's a very bright child. I've set up special instruction time after school, so please don't worry. Mr. Harris is very kind, isn't he?" Deborah said. "Yes," Noah answered simply, returning his gaze to the window. When they arrived at school, Mr. Harris was standing near the gate, greeting students. Deborah opened the window and waved to him. "Good morning. Another beautiful day, isn't it?" Mr. Harris said, approaching with a warm smile. "Good morning. Thank you for always looking after Noah," Deborah said gratefully. "Not at all, that's my job. Noah is a very obedient student." Mr. Harris placed his hand on Noah's shoulder. Deborah thought she saw Noah's body stiffen slightly at that moment. "Let's go to the classroom," Mr. Harris said, and Noah gave Deborah a small wave before following his teacher. Back in the car, Deborah watched her son's receding figure in the rearview mirror and felt an inexplicable anxiety. But she told herself it was probably just excessive worry as a single parent. Deborah pushed down that small concern and rushed toward the hospital. "Mom, my head hurts." Deborah stopped preparing dinner in the kitchen and turned around. Noah had looked up from his homework at the dining table and was holding the back of his head with both hands. This was the 3rd time in a week. "Hurting again? What kind of pain?" Deborah knelt beside her son and asked gently. "It tingles in the back," Noah answered quietly. "Sometimes it throbs." Following her habit as a healthcare professional, Deborah immediately checked Noah's head. She carefully examined his scalp between his hair but found no signs of swelling or trauma. No fever either. During the last hospital examination, the physician had said, "It's probably growing pains or school-related stress." "Does it hurt at school too?" Deborah asked. Noah seemed to think for a moment before vaguely answering, "Not really." The next morning, Deborah left the hospital early and stopped by the school. She spotted Mr. Harris coming out of the faculty room and called out to him. "Do you have a moment? I'm a bit concerned about Noah." Mr. Harris responded with a calm expression. "Is something wrong?" Deborah explained about Noah's headache complaints. Mr. Harris listened intently and nodded thoughtfully. "He seems fine at school," he said in a reassuring tone. "He maintains concentration during special instruction time. Adaptation to a new environment is gradual. It can be quite stressful for a small body." "I see." Deborah felt somewhat relieved but still sensed something wasn't right. "Please let me know if you notice any changes." "Of course, leave it to me," Mr. Harris smiled. "You're a wonderful mother. Noah is lucky to have you caring so much." That weekend, Deborah noticed Noah's hair had grown long enough to cover his eyes. She decided to take him to their regular place, Trim and Style, a warm family-owned salon in the town center where veteran stylist Martha Jones specialized in children's haircuts. "It's been a while," Martha greeted them cheerfully when they entered. "Noah, you've grown." Noah smiled slightly and returned the greeting. Deborah seated Noah in the children's chair and decided to wait in the nearby seating area, reading a magazine. "The usual bowl cut?" Martha asked Noah, who nodded quietly. Martha carefully wet Noah's hair and combed it while continuing the conversation. "How's school? What's your favorite subject?" "I like science," Noah answered, though a bit nervous. "Learning about space and dinosaurs is fun." "That's wonderful. My son loved dinosaurs too," Martha chatted warmly while skillfully using her scissors to trim Noah's hair. Her approach to children showed a natural warmth based on experience. Deborah had her eyes on the magazine, but suddenly realized the salon had grown oddly quiet. When she looked up, she saw Martha staring at the back of Noah's head, her movements frozen. Sensing something wrong in her expression, Deborah stood up from her chair. "Is something wrong?" Martha seemed to come back to herself at Deborah's voice and shifted her gaze. Her eyes clearly showed concern. "Could you come over here, please?" Martha's tone maintained professional calm, but tension lingered in her voice. Deborah's heart began to race. She hurried to Noah's chair. "This doesn't look right," Martha said in a low voice. She held a small mirror to the back of Noah's head, adjusting the angle so Deborah could see through the reflection. Deborah's blood ran cold. On the back of Noah's head, in the areas where the hair had been cut short, several small red dots were visible. They looked like needle marks, tiny holes about 1 millimeter in diameter. They weren't arranged neatly but scattered irregularly, 5 or 6 of them. Deborah gasped. "Noah, what happened to this?" Noah met his mother's eyes in the mirror, then suddenly looked down and tensed up. "I don't know. Did someone do this to you?" Deborah's voice no longer had room for pretense. Martha was also looking at Noah with concern. Noah began to tremble slightly, with tears in his eyes. "I can't say. I'll get in trouble if I tell." Those words sent terror through Deborah's entire body. She crouched down in front of her son, trying to meet his eyes. "I won't be angry. Who did this to you?" Noah shrank further and fell silent. Martha gave Deborah a look and quietly said, "This appears to be intentional. Such marks don't occur naturally." Various possibilities raced through Deborah's mind. School bullying. Or. She caught her breath. The headache complaints, Noah's changes, Mr. Harris's special instruction. Fragmented information began to connect like a puzzle. That's enough for today. I'll come back later to pay, Deborah said, her voice shaking but resolute. She removed Noah's cape and took his hand. Noah, let's go. Where? Noah asked, frightened. To the police station, Deborah's voice was determined. Don't worry. Mom will protect you. As Martha saw them off, she called out, if there's anything I can do to help, but Deborah had no time to stop. In the car, Deborah started the engine with trembling hands. Noah sat quietly in the back seat. Deborah tried to regain her composure while watching her son in the rearview mirror. Listen, she said in the calmest voice she could manage. You haven't done anything wrong. Someone hurt you. That's absolutely unacceptable. I'm on your side. So we're going to find out what happened, with the help of the police. Noah nodded slightly but still looked scared. Deborah strengthened her resolve. Whatever this was, she was determined to stand up for her son and uncover the truth. She accelerated the car toward the police station. In her heart, regret for not noticing the situation sooner mingled with anger toward whoever had hurt her son. But now was not the time to be ruled by those emotions. She needed to stay calm and take necessary action for Noah. Parking at the police station, Deborah took a deep breath. Let's go. I'll be with you the whole time. Deborah held Noah's small hand and pushed open the heavy door of the police station. I'm Detective Linda Mackenzie. In the counseling room at the police station, the detective introduced herself to Deborah. She had short auburn hair and deep eyes that spoke of experience. Beside her stood a young female officer in uniform. I'm Officer Sonia Williams from the Special Investigations Unit for Child Abuse, the young officer said in a gentle tone. May I speak with Noah in a separate room? We have a specialized interview room. Deborah looked anxiously at her son. Noah sat huddled in his chair, tightly gripping his mother's sleeve. I want to stay with Mom, he said in a trembling voice. Detective Linda pulled her chair closer and crouched down to Noah's eye level. I understand. Let's stay with Mom at first. Noah, I know this is scary. But we're here to help you, to protect you from bad people. After a tense 30 minutes, Linda took several photographs of Noah's head, then prepared a separate room with toys and picture books, saying, Please wait here for a bit. Deborah moved to another room with Linda and explained the situation in detail. You didn't notice these injuries until the haircut? Linda questioned. His hair was too long to see them. I took him to the hospital when he complained of headaches, but the doctor couldn't find anything. Deborah's voice trembled with self-reproach. I should have noticed. Don't blame yourself, Linda said firmly. The perpetrator is the perpetrator. You took action the moment you noticed. I think it's Mr. Harris, Deborah continued, choosing her words carefully. I don't have proof, but he's been giving Noah special instruction after school, and Noah said he can't talk because he was told he'd get in trouble. Linda nodded while searching for something on her computer. James Harris, 45 years old. Third year at Oak Crest Elementary. Previously worked at a St. Paul Elementary School for 5 years. You've already looked into him. Deborah was surprised. Cases involving children are top priority, Linda said with a serious expression. While Officer Sonia talks with Noah, I'll inquire about Mr. Harris's previous workplaces. I'll also request the school's surveillance camera footage. That afternoon, Deborah left Noah with her parents and returned to the police station. Sonia introduced Dr. Erica Jensen, a child psychology specialist. Erica was a woman with kind eyes and a reassuring voice. Noah still can't talk about the details, Sonia reported. However, when we asked him to draw pictures, he drew himself alone in a classroom, facing an adult male. It's a drawing that expresses fear. We need to build trust patiently, Erica said with professional calmness. Let's meet again tomorrow. Today, let him rest in a safe environment. The next day, while Erica and Sonia deepened their trust with Noah, Linda reported progress to Deborah. We're investigating complaints from Mr. Harris's previous school. Also, the school surveillance cameras show other children staying in Mr. Harris's classroom after hours. Linda's expression was stern. We've requested cooperation from the principal without giving details, just saying it's under investigation. Other children might be victims too. Deborah's voice trembled. It's possible. But unless Noah can tell us a bit more. For the next 3 days, Erica and Sonia spent time building a relationship with Noah. Finally, on the 4th day, Noah began to open up slightly. Were Mr. Harris's special lessons a secret from everyone else? Erica asked gently. Noah nodded slightly. He said it was special studying just for me. What kind of things did you study? Regular math and science, but if I made mistakes. Noah's words caught in his throat. What happened when you made mistakes? Sonia gently prompted. He said I'd learn through pain. Noah's voice cracked, and tears flowed from his eyes. With something thin like a pencil, here. He pointed to the back of his head. Deborah was watching through a monitor from another room. Her entire body shook with anger and sadness. Linda placed a hand on her shoulder. He's talking well. Noah is brave. Linda's voice revealed her anger. This is clear abuse. I'll request a search warrant for Mr. Harris's home and classroom. That night, Deborah held Noah tightly. Thank you for telling Mom. You were very brave. Will Mr. Harris be angry? Noah asked fearfully. I'll never let him near you again, Deborah said firmly. Why couldn't you tell Mom? Noah answered through small sobs. He said Mom was busy, so I shouldn't make you sad with things like this. And if I told, he'd do something worse. Deborah felt her heart being torn apart. She held her son close and quietly shed tears. The next morning, Linda called. The search warrant has been issued. We'll execute it before classes start today. Please don't send him to school yet. A few hours later, Linda called Deborah to the police station. Her expression was dark and somber. In Mr. Harris's classroom desk, we found thin needle-like tools and photographs of several children's heads, Linda reported gravely. The photos are dated and include number of problems missed. At least 4 other students besides Noah have been victimized. Deborah was speechless with shock. How could this happen? Furthermore, we found that there were similar complaints at his previous school. However, it seems they didn't lead to disciplinary action due to lack of evidence. Anger flashed across Linda's face. He changed schools and continued the same behavior. What do I tell Noah? Deborah murmured. The truth, Linda said firmly. That he bears no responsibility at all, and that his courage to speak up was very important. In the afternoon, news of Mr. Harris's arrest spread throughout town. The principal called Deborah to apologize, and other victim parents began to make contact. An emergency parent meeting was held at Oak Crest Elementary, where the principal tearfully apologized. I deeply regret failing in my supervisory responsibilities and not protecting the children. We will fully cooperate with the police and establish a support system for all affected children and their families. That evening, Deborah sat beside Noah's bed, reading a picture book together. Noah looked exhausted but seemed to have relaxed a little. Noah, today was a very difficult day, Deborah said, gently stroking his hair. But because you were so brave, we were able to protect other children too. Really? Noah asked in a small voice. Really, Deborah answered with conviction. You're a hero. And no matter what happens from now on, Mom will always be on your side. Promise. I promise, Deborah kissed her son's forehead. From tomorrow, let's start getting better together, little by little. Noah nodded slightly and showed a small smile. 3 months later, James Harris's formal trial began. District Attorney Sarah Conrad stood beside Deborah. "Are you ready?" Sarah asked quietly. Deborah nodded while adjusting the sleeve of her black suit. "Yes." But Noah having to take the witness stand. "Don't worry," Sarah assured her. "The judge has agreed to let the children's testimonies be given by video. They won't need to be in court." Entering the courtroom, several parents were already seated. They all had the same expression, a mixture of anger, sadness, and determination. The investigation had revealed that at least 6 children at Oak Crest Elementary had been abused under the guise of Harris's special instruction. After taking her seat in the victim's family section, Harris appeared on the opposite side with his lawyer. The man once respected as a gentle teacher now looked tired and almost like a different person. When he looked in Deborah's direction, she couldn't help but shudder. His eyes showed no sign of remorse. With the announcement "jury entering," the trial began. In her opening statement, Prosecutor Sarah spoke passionately. This man betrayed the most sacred trust, the trust of children and their parents. Under the name of education, he inflicted unspeakable fear and pain on the most vulnerable children. The defense countered that it was part of educational guidance, with no intention to deliberately cause harm. Murmurs of indignation came from the gallery. The trial lasted a week. There were testimonies from doctors, photographic evidence, and most moving were the video testimonies of the children. When Noah's testimony was played, Deborah tightly gripped Detective Linda's hand beside her. The whole courtroom fell silent as the small figure of her son on the screen bravely spoke about the horror he had experienced. The teacher said, "The head learns best when it feels pain." Noah's voice was small but clearly audible. "Every time I made a mistake, he'd come behind me and stick something painful in. When I cried, he'd get angry and say, 'Boys don't cry.'" When the testimony ended, Deborah couldn't hold back her tears. Sarah placed a hand on her shoulder and whispered, "Your son is truly brave." Harris's lawyer tried to argue in cross-examination that children's memories aren't reliable, but this wasn't convincing in the face of physical evidence. Particularly decisive was the diary discovered at Harris's home. It detailed his educational theory that giving pain for each mistake improves their memory. On the 5th day, Deborah herself took the stand. She spoke matter-of-factly about Noah's changes, his headache complaints, and the discovery at the salon. It was difficult to suppress her emotions, but she tried to be strong for her son and the other children. "My son still suffers from nightmares. He's afraid to go to school and can't trust adults. His innocence has been stolen." Deborah's voice shook, but her back was straight. On the final day, Harris himself took the stand. He claimed he was only trying an innovative educational method and insisted that the pain was minimal, with high educational effectiveness. The courtroom erupted in anger. The verdict was unanimous. Harris was found guilty of multiple counts of child abuse and assault, and sentenced to 30 years in prison. The judge said sternly, "It is a failure of society as a whole that someone like you held the sacred position of educator. Even your sentence may not be enough for the psychological wounds of the children you've hurt to heal." Leaving the courthouse, Deborah stopped with the other victim families. They looked at each other in silence, then one by one, embraced each other. "This is not the end," Deborah said. "Let's support each other for our children's recovery." Those words sparked the birth of a support group called Pinewood Children's Guardians. Every Wednesday night, they gathered alternately at each other's homes to discuss their children's recovery. Art therapy and play therapy sessions for the children also began. Deborah utilized her nursing knowledge and started taking courses in child psychology. She learned about trauma care for children and shared this with the support group. Her home often became a safe place for other parents and children to gather. Meanwhile, Noah's recovery was by no means easy. He visited child psychologist Dr. Morgan twice a week. Noah, who initially refused to talk at all, gradually opened his heart through Dr. Morgan's patient approach, especially with the help of therapy dog Bailey. "Bailey won't tell anyone my secrets," Noah told Deborah one day after therapy. It was his first spontaneous statement after weeks of silence. The school also faced major reforms. The principal resigned, and Patricia Finch, with a background in child psychology, was appointed. Her first actions were rigorous screening of all staff and mandatory training in child abuse prevention. Video surveillance systems were installed in each classroom, and personnel were always stationed in the hallways. 6 months later, a civil lawsuit against the school district reached a settlement. Part of the compensation was allocated to psychological care and educational trust funds for the victimized children. However, for parents like Deborah, the most valuable outcome was the promised reform of the entire school system. "There are things money cannot heal," Deborah said at a press conference. "What we seek is system-wide change to ensure such tragedies never happen again." Returning home, Noah was quietly reading a book in the living room. He used to love reading but hadn't touched books for a while after the incident. Recently, he had begun to reclaim his old hobbies little by little. "What kind of book?" Deborah asked, sitting next to him on the sofa. "A space book," Noah answered softly. "Dr. Morgan lent it to me." "Space is vast, isn't it?" Deborah said gently. "Yes. But it's not scary," Noah said while turning the pages. "The doctor said even when scary things happen, you can become stronger by overcoming them." Deborah hugged her son. The wounds were deep, and complete healing would be a long journey. However, this small moment proved that recovery had indeed begun. That night, Noah's words to Deborah before bedtime were deeply etched in her heart. "Mom, thank you for finding it that day at the salon. Mom will always protect you. I promise." Saying this, Deborah kissed her son's forehead. A year had passed, and gentle spring light streamed through the window. The calendar had Science Fair Presentation Day circled in red pen. "Noah, hurry up. We'll be late." Deborah called from the kitchen. "I'm ready." Running down the stairs, Noah looked like a different boy from before. He had grown taller, his face a bit more mature, and most of all, the sparkle had returned to his eyes. In his hands, he held a small solar system model. Meticulously crafted planets connected to the central sun with wires. "You did a wonderful job," Deborah said with a smile. "Are your friends from the new Pineapple Meadow School coming to see it?" "Yes, Jason and Marcus said they're coming. Marcus's mom will drive them." Noah had been gradually making friends at his new school, Pineapple Meadow Elementary. After the incident, Deborah had decided to transfer Noah. Though they continued living in the same town, she felt they needed a fresh start in a new environment. Getting into the car, Deborah reflected. The past year had been a period of pain and growth. Pinewood Children's Guardians had now become a recognized child protection organization across the state. Occasionally, Deborah gave lectures at local schools and parent associations about early detection and prevention of abuse. "Mom, are you going to the hospital after today?" Noah asked. "Yes, just briefly. Only to pick up materials for tonight's meeting." Deborah now worked at the hospital just 3 days a week, dedicating the rest of her time to child protection activities. Her experience had become a support for many parents. Meanwhile, James Harris was serving his sentence in a state prison. She had heard he received no visitors. Recently, his psychological evaluation report had been sent to Deborah. It noted that abuse he himself had suffered in childhood had become the source of his behavior. After reading that report, Deborah pondered for a long time. She couldn't forgive him, but she gained a deeper understanding of the importance of breaking this cycle. We're here. Deborah parked in front of the school. Nervous? A little, Noah answered honestly. But I'll do what Dr. Morgan taught me. Take deep breaths and believe in myself. That's right, Deborah embraced her son's shoulders. You'll be fine. Mom is always proud of you. Entering the classroom, Noah's friends waved to him. Watching her son, Deborah felt a quiet gratitude in her heart. Even in darkness, they had found light. The wounds might not be completely healed, but they had learned to live with them and find strength there. In the evening, at home in the living room, Noah approached Deborah. Mom, I've decided what I want to be when I grow up. What do you want to be? Deborah asked with a smile. A children's doctor. I want to help suffering children. Tears welled in Deborah's eyes. She was touched by the compassion and strength that had grown in her son. That's a wonderful dream, she said. Mom will support you. Outside the window, spring winds swayed the trees, announcing a new season. Deborah and Noah continued walking toward a hopeful future, carrying their past pain. Sometimes the wounds might ache. But they were no longer alone. Supporting each other, and supported by their community, they had begun to open a new page in their lives.